For just under $200 or around $250k, you can get either the Redmi Note 14 or the Galaxy A16 4G. Which should you get? Well, let's find out. Picking the better design phone isn't easy, because first off, design is subjective. What I think looks nice might look ugly to you. And then also, both phones have good and bad designs. The A16, in my opinion, has a really good rear design. It's simple, it's minimal, it's the standard Samsung look, which most people like. But then when you turn the phone over, you see this, a huge chin and a U-shaped notch. The bezels aren't actually even that bad. It's mostly the outdated U-shaped notch that makes the front of this phone look terrible. The Note 14, on the other hand, has a not so great, very generic rear design, but a very nice front design with okay bezels and a hole punch cutout. So like I said, both phones have good and bad designs. But if I had to choose one, I'll actually go with the Note 14 because I just can't use a $200 phone with a U-shaped notch in 2025. Design goes to the Note 14. Now, this doesn't exactly fall under build quality, but when taking a tour of both phones, you realize that you get more with the Note 14. The Note 14 comes with 2 speakers, it comes with an IR blaster, and it comes with a headphone jack, all of which are things that we do not get with the A16. And then when it comes to actual build quality, the Note 14 is slightly better. Both phones have an IP54 rating, both phones have a plastic back and glass front, but the Note 14 has an aluminium frame, while the A16 has a plastic frame. Everyone knows aluminium is better than plastic. And then also, the Note 14 screen has Corning Gorilla Glass 5 protection, while the A16 doesn't. So yeah, better build quality. I'll be giving another point to the Note 14. So now let's move on to the next category, display. The display category is pretty straightforward. The Redmi Note 14 has the better display. They both have the same resolution, same display type, but the Note 14 has the better refresh rate at 120Hz. Would most people be able to tell the difference though between 120Hz and 90Hz? Probably not. To me even, both phones feel equally smooth. But still, we have to give the edge to the Note 14. It is better. And also, even though both phones have an AMOLED display, only the Note 14 comes with the always on display feature. I know this is more of a software thing than a display thing, but I just thought to mention that. If you put these two displays side by side, you notice that in terms of color and sharpness, they're almost identical. They both look really good. But then when you consider refresh rates, Gorilla Glass protection, the notch, I think it's clear that the Note 14 wins this round. It has the better display. The Note 14 so far has won all the categories, and it's winning this one too. Performance is the next category. When I saw on the spec sheets that the Note 14 uses the Helio G99 Ultra, while the A16 uses the Helio G99, I immediately ran Geekbench to see if there's any difference between the two chipsets. And when I did, well, I did see a difference. A small difference, but a difference. I do not think that anyone would be able to see this difference in real life. Like, I used both phones, and I wouldn't say that the Note 14 felt faster or smoother to use. So yeah, the Note 14 is faster on paper, but you would struggle to see that in real life. I was tempted to call this category a tie, just to help out the A16 a bit, but a win is a win. So the point still goes to the Note 14. Oh, by the way, if you're looking to get either phone, I would suggest going for the variants with at least 6 gigs of RAM. The A16 starts at 4 gigs, so probably just skip that variant. You'll thank me later. Okay, now let's talk cameras. The Note 14 has a 108 megapixel main camera, a 2 megapixel macro camera, and a 2 megapixel depth sensor. The A16 has a 50 megapixel main camera, a 5 megapixel ultra-wide camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. We're going to look at their selfie cameras in a bit, but starting off with the main cameras, you can clearly see that even though the Note 14 has twice the megapixel count of the A16 actually takes better photos. Sure, in some photos they're comparable, and maybe you might even like the Note 14 better in some, but I would say 8 times out of 10, the A16 produces the better shots. I wouldn't say it's a night and day difference. For the most part, images taken on both phones look similar, they look good. It's just that the A16 has a more balanced approach when it comes to color and contrast, which gives it the edge over the Note 14. Another thing that gives it an edge over the Note 14 is its ultra-wide camera, which, again, the Note 14 doesn't have. The ultra-wide camera isn't particularly impressive, but it's still a nice to have. So yeah, the A16 takes better photos. Unlike with photos though, I think the Note 14 takes better video. Both phones shoot at 1080p, but as you can probably see, the Note 14's video is stabilized, while the A16's isn't. Most people just pull out their phones and record. They don't use tripods or gimbals. So I think most people would prefer to have a phone that can shoot stable video. And then on top of that, I think the Note 14's videos even look better. They look more vibrant and colorful. So yeah, the Note 14 takes better videos. Now, switching over to the selfie cameras, on paper, the Note 14 comes out on top, 20 megapixels to 13 on the A16, but is it better? I wouldn't say it's better, instead I'll say it's close. Again, just like with the main camera, they both produce somewhat similar, somewhat good-looking photos, but the A16, in my opinion, comes out on top because of how it handles color and contrast. But feel free to let me know what you guys think. And then, just like the main camera, the selfie video quality on the Note 14 is better, thanks to it having, once again, video stabilization. So in general, I would say the A16 is better at taking photos, while the Note 14 is better at taking videos. They all both share the point. The final big category is battery. Unsurprisingly, the Redmi Note 14 wins this category. It has a bigger battery at 5,500 mAh compared to the A16's 5,000 mAh battery, and it also supports faster charging at 33 watts compared to 25 watts on the A16. So a bigger battery and faster charging. Oh, and you don't get any charging adapter with the A16, only with the Note 14. So yeah, the battery category belongs to the Note 14. It's not looking good for the A16. The Redmi Note 14 won in basically every category. The A16 only managed to get 0.5 points because it takes better photos. So does that mean nobody should buy the A16? Well, not really, because there are still two more categories we should consider. One of them is software. The A16 actually wins this category for two reasons: stability and longevity. One UI, although not as feature-packed, is known to be stable, or at least more stable than Redmi's MIUI. One common complaint I see from Redmi users is that you get bugs every now and then, especially after updating the software. I personally haven't experienced any of such, but it appears a lot of people have. So yeah, just thought to mention that. One UI, on the other hand, seems to be fine. I don't think I've heard anyone complain about bugs on their Samsung phone. They would complain about other stuff though, like the lack of a native screen recorder, or the absence of the always-on display feature. But yeah, they won't complain about stability. Next reason why the A16 wins this category is longevity. Samsung has promised that the A16 will get 7 years of major Android updates. That is 4 or even 5 more years than what we would get on the Redmi Note 14. I don't think anyone would need to keep their budget phone for 7 years, but if you wanted to, well, you can. Software goes to the A16. Pricing is a bit different in every region, but in this region, the Note 14 is cheaper. If you go for the 6 128GB variant for both phones, you'll be spending $259,000 for the A16 and $253,000 for the Note 14. So the Note 14 is cheaper, and if you remember, comes with more accessories, a charging adapter, and a protective case. If you go with the A16, you would have to spend more to get a charger and a protective case. This is the last category, and the Note 14 wins it. So what's the conclusion? Well, if you're a big Samsung fan, or maybe you really like One UI and that 7 years of OS updates, then yeah, you should get the A16. Also, if you really like taking photos, like only photos and not too much video, I think you should also get the A16. But for everyone else, anyone interested in getting the overall better phone, I mean, yeah, it's very clear. Get the Note 14. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you found this comparison useful. Let me know which you'd pick in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you when you see me.